In just an hour wandering around our garden on a sunny day in late May, I spotted a dozen little critters, not to even mention the many birds that are harder to film. Invertebrate watching turns out to be a whole lot easier than and just as fun as bird watching. I look for anything that moves or that seems anomalous and focus in on it, and very often it will turn out to be something new to me. Or I can just stand in front of certain blooming plants and wait for the critters to come to me. These are the true owners of this property that we share, and it is our joyful duty and privilege to protect them. This of course means no insecticides for sure, because even those labeled organic or safe, by which they mean safe for humans, will thoroughly kill off all the life here. Herbicides and chemical fertilizers are dicey as well, so we don't use them. The only exception is on small poison ivy plants, but we leave the vine that is on the tree where it blooms and produces berries, which are an important food source for birds. This means we get new seedlings every year, but I don't mind dealing with them. Watching the critters on our property is so absorbing that I used to worry that maybe I would run out of new things to discover. But it turns out there is no need to worry there. There are something like 400 species of native bees in Virginia, 80 or 90 species of butterflies just in Northern Virginia, a similar number of dragonflies, a jillion moth species, whose caterpillars are the main food source for baby birds, and many thousand species of beetles and other orders such as flies, most of which don't look at all like houseflies. One day I was looking out the window and saw a whole bunch of big orange butterflies on our butterfly weed, and ran out in excitement, thinking I had finally attracted monarchs with this type of milkweed. Turned out they were fritillary butterflies, which I had never even heard of before, and that the common violet is their host plant. Part of our lawn had been overtaken by violets, and I am so glad that I didn't mow them down or use herbicides on them. Like everyone else, we started out afraid of bees and wasps, and in fact my husband is allergic to yellow jackets, which are a type of wasp. But as long as we avoid wasp nests, which they will defend, we can get our noses right up to them to take their photos, and they take no notice. They're too busy foraging, and wasps are important pollinators. You can actually pet bumblebees, and once I even tried it with no reaction from it. Of course, there are also plenty of vertebrates sharing our property. We don't see most of the mammals, and of course deliberately exclude deer, since they destroy the native plants upon which all other life depends. We have gotten to know the birds that come to the feeder, and we are very slowly starting to recognize the many others that don't. By getting to know the songs of the common birds, when we hear something different, we know to look around for the source. Putting in native plants and removing invasives has very noticeably increased the biodiversity of our yard. Just as important, if not more so, is conserving any natural ecosystem we can, since we can never fully restore ecosystems we destroy. We leave in place the dead trees that support so much life when we can safely, and leave as many leaves on the ground as possible to shelter overwintering creatures, and leave the stalks of perennials where bees can make their nests. We change the outdoor light bulbs to yellow LED that don't attract moths to exhaust themselves to death at night. We still have a big lawn over the septic field, but a friend once admired it for having so many different kinds of plants in it. It looks perfectly acceptable. Developing a personal relationship with our small neighbors has made me understand how crushingly inadequate the word sustainable is. It is considered sustainable to cut down a tree and replace it with a seedling, which is what happens when I buy lumber, but only if we assign zero value to every life that is not human. I hope as a culture we can expand our circle of love to all beings. And if our hearts are too small to do that, I hope we at least soon recognize that we are part of one ecosystem, and our own survival depends on their health.